Hi, my name is Akua Gyamfi, founder of the British Blacklist. On behalf of We Are Parable, I'd like to welcome you all to the Martin Luther King FBI Roundtable. And we're going to explore some of the details and the themes in this brilliant, brilliant documentary. It's very, very timely as well. I'm joined by some really esteemed guests, and I'm excited to be talking to them. I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves because I don't think I'll give enough grace and gratitude and magnitude to what you guys do and who you are. So I'll start with Darrel. Please introduce yourself and tell us what you do.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be amongst greatness right now. I'm just looking at everybody here. I'm like a small fish in a massive pond here. So my name's Darrel Blake. I'm an educator, historian, community leader, and a mentor. I run an organization called Black Rooted, which is a social media platform which showcases films, documentaries, art, music, literally every field of entry where there's greatness and blackness. Also, I'm pioneering this year Black Rooted Academy, which is a Saturday school centered around the sort of structures of maths, English, and science, but also Black history, Black creativity, Black future as well. Don't like to dwell in the past too much, with the Sankofa sort of parable, go back to go forward. And Black Rooted Academy is working with young people as a alternative space and learning to bring about culture, knowledge, heritage, and make that be the identity amongst our young people going forward as they face these challenges through the national curriculum, so on and so forth in the academies.
Thank you very much. And Charmaine.
Okay, so greetings. Thank you for inviting me also. So my name is Charmaine Simpson. I am one half of the team that make up Black History Studies. And Black History Studies is an organization I've been running with my husband, Mark Simpson, for the past 14 years. And Black History Studies is an organization that teaches Black history and Black studies throughout the years by any means necessary. So we have been teaching Black history using various different concepts, using film, courses, museum tours. We publish our own books. We take groups out on tours to international places. We are global African people, so we should be traveling and visiting other Africans globally. So we have another sister organization called Black History Study Tours, where we organize tours, group tours to various places of Black interests, looking at the history and making links with the people that are living in those communities as well. So we've taken groups to Egypt, Amsterdam, Lisbon, where else have we taken them? So many places. Anywhere where there's Black people and history, we go. Yeah, and we have been just loving this journey. So we have been just working hard just to popularize the fact that we have amazing history and sharing our passion for history. And it's not about just learning about Black history, because Black history is the missing pages of world history. So it's teaching people that we have amazing story to share. As we're sitting down today, we're making history and showing to people that we've always been here and we're going to continue to be here and we are not going anywhere. So it's just about telling people that we have amazing story to share and just keeping it going and keeping it moving. And it's just lovely to know that we're here. And thank you for having me as well.
Much blessings for you guys, because your intros are brilliant and there's so much that you guys do, which is so important and difficult, I must imagine, because I was going to say this documentary, MLK, I don't know, I have to say /FBI, but MLK/FBI, that's the title of the documentary, which is about Martin Luther King Jr., a time when the FBI were really on his back to, and calling him a threat to society and all that type of stuff. Before we get into the documentary, for both of you, how do you, because you both teach and you teach our history, so how would you both describe Martin Luther King to a classroom of people wanting to know more? I'll start with you, Charmaine.
Yeah. So I've actually recently just delivered a young people's workshop about Martin Luther King and talking about all the wonderful things that he did. Because look, there's two sides to Martin Luther King. There's the mainstream side and then the grassroots side. And a lot of time people just talk about, oh, he had a dream and he just wanted to dream and he was a dreamer. But no, he wasn't. He was a young Black man who was very intelligent and smart that just wanted to change. He saw the conditions of his people in America at that time and wanted to have change. And this is the story that should be shown. And oftentimes that people pit him against Malcolm X, like, oh, Malcolm X is the radical one, and he's the more powerful, the one that we should be following, and Martin Luther King is the passive one that just sat down in a cafe and let white people beat them. No, they were both had similar aims, and they both had different ways of going about the same aim, which is looking at uplifting the Black community and bringing change of the segregation and all those unjust racist laws that were happening in America that still exist to this day. Because we're a work in progress. Some people think, oh yeah, the dream is finished. No, it's still going. As we know, every day, if you're on social media, every hour of the day, there's somebody being reported that's being killed. And we have, and it's not just in America, in Ireland at the moment, they're shooting down our brothers and sisters like left, right, and center. As we speak, as we even on this webinar, somebody's being killed. So this is ongoing. And what I want people to recognize is that we have the power to make change. If you see the injustice in the world, you can use your resources and your power and your passion to get change.
Yeah.
Even
We'll
though you might not think you have global power, you have the power to make change. And that's what I want people to get from Martin Luther King. He used his faith, his Christianity, his love of his people to bring about change. And that's one of the things I want people to recognize.
Thank you. Darrel, you too.
Yeah, I mean, Charmaine put it brilliantly. And to was like piggyback off that. What I say to young people is that Martin Luther King is an ordinary man. You know, he's someone who had a vision, someone who believed in himself and believed in the cause. And, you know, when we do Black history, we honor those who were there before. You know, what I show the young people is that you are Black history. You consist of all the elements that make up Black history. So even though it's Martin Luther King, and, you know, you might go to Malcolm X, and, you know, these were incredible individuals, they were still ordinary people. They were still human. These are people who make mistakes. These are people who learn. These are people who had social circles, because kind of like Africana studies, you know, there's ways of knowing and ways of understanding, and what the schools don't teach when it comes to Black history. They'll teach Martin Luther King, but as Charmaine was saying, there's the mainstream, but then there's the organic side. The organic side consists of, who is he? What is he like? You know, when we have these conversations of our leaders, we don't talk about, so what was his favorite food? What music did he listen to? You know, away from him, you know, being part of Ebenezer Baptist Church, I'm sure he did listen to blues. I'm sure he did, right? So he grew up in a time where music was kind of transitioning. You know, I mean, Harlem Renaissance was starting to be kind of like beginning to make an impact. And, you know, I'm sure he was a part of it. I'm sure, you know, him hanging around with John Lewis, that was also an aspect. So he was an ordinary man that liked things, that made mistakes, that was growing. But also he was a man during a time where it was liberty or death sort of thing. And he made sure that he was at the forefront of every movement to say, look, I'm here with you. And he believed in his cause. So that's what I teach young people, that he was an ordinary man who had faith.
That's very, very true. And so I guess you guys know everything you can know about Martin Luther King, but with the documentary, was there anything new that you learned about him that either surprised you, or you were like, okay, there's actually some valuable new information or a new perspective that the documentary showed you about Martin Luther King?
For me, what I learned new, and I knew about the extent of J. Edgar Hoover and the COINTEL program, but sometimes you don't understand the extent. And I'm a type of person that I find it hard that you would go out your way to have meetings, to plot to kill another human being. And because that's not me. So me to be putting myself into that position that you're going to plot, take out another human being that's giving birth to another human being, that's a father of 4 children, that all he wants to change the condition of the people, and you're going to sit there and plot and plan his murder. Plot to make the man, force him to commit suicide because he goes against what your ideals are. That just blows my mind. And then you've got to be thinking about, if they did that to Martin Luther King, what about all the other leaders and inspirational leaders that we don't even know their names about? We don't even know their names, all the other movements, because it wasn't just the Black movement, it was other movements that FBI infiltrated and disrupted. What happened to them? What are their stories? Where's the missing information and putting these together? Because American acts like big and bad, like they're the moral ground of everything. We have to aspire to be like them, and they're so holier than thou. But when you look at some of the things that they did, to another human being, you have to question sometimes. And then you have to realize that this is not stopped for Martin Luther King. This is continuing to this day, to this point, at this moment in time. So, and those views and ideals have not changed. It's just changed in the method and how they're doing it. And they're not going to your house and bugging your phone. They're just following you by your phone and your social media, and labeling you as a Black identity extremist because you want to teach history and you want to encourage people to have critical thinking and challenge the status quo. That's the sad part for me watching that film, that he had so much promise and he has so much that he could give, but powers that be decided that he had to die. And who are them that over another person? And it's sad to see.
We lost you a little bit, Charmaine, but I think we got just a little bit of interference. But we got the last gist of your point. But yeah, it's exactly right. So what about you, Darrel? Anything new that you learned about Martin Luther King?
Yeah, same as Charmaine in terms of the essence of the hatred. I mean, I was surprised. I was like, wow, like these people are malicious. Yeah. Like these people are crosses. You know what I mean? These people are real horrible. And I was just like, but then when I got to the end of it, I was like, I was surprised, but then I wasn't surprised because it's like, you know, it's United States. But I was watching, I was like, they are plotting. When you're seeing these secret phone calls that they're making, saying, you know, what we're gonna do, you know, because us discussing, you know, his leaked audio and stuff, it's not working. Like he's got a Nobel Peace Prize. Like, what's going on? Like, what else can we do? And it's like, well, let's try and coerce him to kill him. How are you gonna coerce someone to try and kill himself? Like, what? Like, we're gonna set up the environment, right, for this individual to be like, yeah, there's nothing else that I can do right now. Let me just call it quits. And you know, that's it. I've got a whole movement behind me. I've got a wife, 4 children. That's not enough. I need to top my, like, let's set up an environment where a man can start thinking like that. That's crazy. Like I've heard about, you know, the FBI and read about the FBI's movements in terms of certain organizations, but that one surprised me. I was like, whoa, I had to pause it, go back a minute, be like, did I just hear right? I was like, wow. So the extent of what the FBI was trying to do in terms of eradicating him, I was surprised by the little intricate details. So yeah, that's what it was for me.
I think that what you both touched on exactly was what shocked me. And it's not shock because we really shouldn't forget or be surprised. However, it is when you just pause and think, did you really just sit there and do that? And it was that moment when it's how crafty and how conniving and how you have to sit there and really decide that this is what we're going to do. Forget that the whole world is going to pop. How many other cases need to be sorted out? Because I think the documentary mentioned that when Martin Luther King was in any kind of town, FBI stopped and full focus was on Martin. Like that's a lot for one Black man to have all that attention on him. And when I watched the doc, what I hadn't necessarily thought about before, or maybe I hadn't known, was that J. Edgar Hoover, as being the first director of the FBI, he was the man who shaped how they operated, who was eligible to be employed. And they all were all operating through his lens, his conservative lens, his racist belief lens, his irrational fear of Black people lens. So for that to be, you know, in order for the FBI to conduct their day-to-day protocol and procedures, was all through the lens of a man who had some warped thoughts. But then it's like, then you think that, so this is why institutions that are supposed to look after all of us, impartially, cannot, because at the heart of them is a human being that's got irrational thought. What were your thoughts about J. Edgar Hoover as a person running an institution that was so racist at that point? Because it was him. Because I think, and I'll also expand on saying, I understand why some people get confused when they say, well, the police can't be racist, but it's not, the police aren't the police, it's the person who directs the institution. Their thought process feeds through. So I just wanted to, maybe I'll go to Darrel first and come to you, Charmaine. What were your thoughts from that perspective about J. Edgar Hoover?
Well, I mean, this man was in power for 48 years. Like 48 years. So he stopped, he stopped doing his business, 1972, right? So he began his his journey in what, 1924. So we got to think about what has he done in 48 years and what has he had to face. So you got to think about all of these leaders that have tried to bring about change, um, that sort of was challenging the status quo, right? And how the FBI have worked in sort of dealing with these individuals is either um, assassination or character assassination. And so you had Marcus Garvey.
Oh,
They
yes.
kicked him out of the United States. They was like, nope, you better go, right? So they had to get rid of him, and his belief system with the UNIA. He had Noble Drew Ali, who brought around the Moorish temple. He was like
Yes.
Marcus Garvey's right hand man. They
Mhm.
had to say, do you know what? No. So they had to discredit him, and obviously false imprisonment. You got Clarence X, who brought around Clarence 13X, who brought around the 5% Nation in the United
Mhm.
States of Gods and Earth. They had to get rid of him. Yahweh Ben Yahweh, he brought in the whole ideology of Hebrewism. They had to get rid of him. Fred Hampton, man, Fred Hampton was the next guy to really
So,
bring it to. They had to kill him. Khalid Muhammad, the same with him as well.
yeah.
Malcolm X, the same with him.
Yeah.
You got Mamiya, Asata Shakur. Like she had to go
Yeah.
Cuba.
Yeah.
Yeah, she had to run because the FBI's powers in that time frame was great, but you like so in the north you had the north and south divide. So the north you had more political inclusion or the illusion of inclusion, where the south
Mm.
was like heavily segregated.
Yeah.
Then you had in the north you had more black involvement in terms of society and media and so on and so forth. But in the south it was more I would say segregated, but it was more like obvious, more overt, right? Covert being the more secretive in the north. In the south, it was more deadly.
Masons. Yeah.
In the north, you had more diverse religious outlets. So you had Pan Africanism, you had Nation of Islam, more you had Christians, you had Hebrews, you had that was growing in the north. South, it was heavily Christian focused, right? And within that space, that's where the African Americans in the South was able to congregate and have their talks because there wasn't a sharing of churches back then, right? And then you had MLK's philosophy in the South, and in the North you had
Mm.
Malcolm X. The FBI had to deal with two individuals because remember, at the same time that they're going to Martin Luther, they've gone to Malcolm X and been like, okay, well, how about you release some information about your leaders, about nation? And he was like, what are you? I feel insulted that you can come to my house and they've got a secret recording. So Edgar was like, look, we need to eradicate every single person who's trying to bring about change because you got that happening over there, that happening over here, and it's literally driving him up the wall. But he's also under pressure. So even though his philosophy is working, the whole whiteness of the United States of America, white being the prime, which is quite funny because African Americans, well, kidnapped African slaves were there before Britain got there. So they were the first people of the United States. But then obviously whiteness became the core avenue behind what it is to be American. They are trying to hold on to that underneath the Confederate flag. And, J. Edgar Hoover coming from a racist background, coming from, a racial, having a racial agenda to, keep black at the bottom and white at the top, he had his work cut out, and by any means necessary, they do not like to lose. So they have to find ways, whether it's assassinating someone, whether it's trying to assassinate their character, whether it's tearing down organizations, whether it's sending in an informant who's going to change the
Mhm.
organization or the group and inform on their movements and so on and so forth. They are very sly and conniving at working against these organizations, and they've always found a way. So in totality, in my answer towards J. Edgar Hoover, he was a mastermind behind being corrupt, and he laid down the fabric of the United States in terms of what it is to overthrow a system, and that's either you assassinate the character or you find a way to infiltrate a movement and kind of like deplete the organization that way. So he's the mastermind behind all of that.
Yeah, and I mean, same question to you, Charmaine, but also
Mm.
because there was the informant, Ernest Withers, who was a
Yeah.
famous civil rights photographer, but
Yeah.
yet
Mhm.
doubling up as a spy for the FBI, and that was one of Edgar J. Edgar's tools to break down Black Panther Party, get inside
Yeah.
minds of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King and more. So yes, your response to how you feel about J. Edgar Hoover, but also then what about us who are complicit as well? And did that set the blueprint for the ongoing legacy of, look, you can't have an organization without it getting infiltrated?
Yeah, exactly. In terms of J. Edgar Hoover, my to try and keep it PC, but yeah, my visions of J. Edgar Hoover is very insecure man. I find that racism and racist people are very insecure because Black people are not going out to fight you. They just want to live their life in the way they want to live it. But you want to have absolute power over other people's lives. So you want to make people's life unbearable. So, for example, you came over, kidnapped Africans, brought into America. We built up America to how you want it. Now we want to have change and live our life how we want to live it. You can't have that because now you're feeling that we're gonna do what you've done to us. Which half the time we don't business about you. We just want to live our life and raise our families. We're not trying to do what that you've done to us. And then, but because of that fear of inferiority that they have, they feel that we're going to rise up and take over and and ensure justice, which we should do. But hey, we're not about that. We're not. In our history. We're not about that. We're about just building up our families, living our life. We're not trying to get revenge, because if that was the case, we would have done that a long time ago. But we've not done that because that's not in our nature. So then you look at J. Edgar Hoover and what he was trying to do, and thinking about it's all about maintaining controlling the situation you have no control over, because you can't control every Black person. Yeah, you can't control what's going to happen. And even though you want to create a system, that system is going to get broken down eventually, because racism doesn't make any sense. You need us. Yeah, when you look at it. So in terms of looking at J. Edgar Hoover and what he tried to do, he's trying to create this total white ideal of all Black or all white men working together over certain ilk. Not going to work. Yeah, and then we're trying to create change for ourselves. And then Darrel was talking about all the different groups that he infiltrated. Yeah, all the things that he did, all the people that he murdered, all the changes that he brought. And when I'm watching the film, I was thinking, you're blaming communism. Why are you blaming communism? Just say that you're scared of communism for why Black people are getting together. No, it's not communism, it's racism. Yeah, you're using that as an excuse. You don't want to deal with the issue at hand, so you're using communism as a way to deflect the argument. It's racism. And I thought that was quite interesting. I'm thinking, you know what, you're battling against people, and they said in the film, people without guns and power who wanted change. And you're gonna sit down there in your meetings with your coffee and biscuits and your cigarettes, plotting to kill a man who's a father of 4 people, and he's just one man, one Black man, and you're going to put all these resources into taking out this person. Look at all the resources they've put into neutralizing the Black Panther Party. They recruited their first Black agent to infiltrate the Marcus Garvey movement. Yeah, and with all in history, it's human nature. There's going to be people that will collaborate because they see a personal gain. They're not looking at the wider picture. They're looking at personal gain, and you're always going to get that. Yeah, but it's just that we have to study the nature of the beast and how they operate, and know that sometimes when we're having our movements and things don't go to plan, we are being infiltrated. Yeah, and sometimes we have to promote the idea of why we're coming together, why are we going for change. Yeah, why is it that we're having segregated schools, segregated bus stations, and that? How is that benefiting us as a people? Yeah, and we need to let people know that we're trying to have a collective movement to benefit everybody, not just individual. And it's a shame that some of us feel that we have to go down that route, and it's sad. And it's sad. And when you look at all of these people that were taken out by the powers that be, what would life be like in Chicago if Fred Hampton was able to continue and bring the gangs together and bring peace in that area and people working together? Yeah, what would happen? But they weren't allowed to have it. That they weren't allowed to have that to happen because they had William O'Neill ratting out to the FBI and going there and killing a man who was in his bed with his wife who was pregnant.
Exactly. I mean, that's the point that, you know, today we have, you know, since the 60s, I would say that's the last time we had like visible, iconic Black leaders.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that conversation carries on today. Like, should we, do we need one? And I think it's like, where, you know, could we have one? Do we need one? Should we have one? And if we, why would you even bother to put yourself in the forefront? Because you know, you've had time and time again, these people have said, you have a leader that's motivational, that can lead you to the, in quotes, promised land of freedom and just civil liberty. They're going to take you out because there's this fear of Black unity.
Yes.
So where do you guys stand on the narrative of a Black Messiah, as it were, in the same mold as MLK or Malcolm X? What, I mean, if, you know, you both teach young people, speak to young people. So if you're someone's like, I'm inspired, guys. I'm inspired, Darrel. I'm inspired, Charmaine. I want to be a Black leader. Because my instinct would be like, don't even bother. Find another way to do it.
We are all Black leaders.
Yeah.
We are all Black leaders. We are all have leadership. We're leadership of our home, leadership in our families, leadership in our community. Yeah. And I know when we set up Black History Studies, some people were like, oh, because of the way we talk things and we talk about subjects that people are quite scared of, oh, we're going to get taken out by the man. But my view is that if I'm going to be taken out, so it be, because I want to be able to make my mark on the world and not be living in fear. And that is what the COINTELPRO, that's what the slave masters instilled into people, fear of uprisings, fear of speaking out. Yeah, we shouldn't be living our life in fear. If there's something that we're not happy about, we need to speak about it. Yeah, and we all must become leaders. So if they can't kill us all, even though they've tried many a times, they can't kill us all. We'll just come back even blacker and stronger. Yeah, so we have to make sure that we are encouraging the next generation of leaders. So you don't have to be out there and say, oh, I'm the leader. You can have movements going on where you don't even know that who is the leadership. That's like the Black Lives Matter. There might be certain leaders, but are they the main leaders? They might be people that are put up there to say they're leaders, but who knows what's going on? And if you study the beast and study war, study how they've operated, studied warfare, you have decoys. So those could be the decoys while the real leaders are doing something else. Yeah. And we should be ready for battle. Yeah. And battle doesn't necessarily mean picking up guns. It's our minds. Our minds be sharp. Yeah. Because remember, all of any war, any battle happens in the mind first, then happens in the physical. So we need to make sure we sharpen our minds, recognize what they do anytime that we're coming together, the way they infiltrate, how they pit us against each other, and recognize these things when they happen. So we're not fighting amongst each other. Yeah. But sometimes we get distracted by fighting amongst each other and not looking at what is the bigger prize. Why are we fighting each other? Me and Darrel, me and you, we ain't in no argument together. Where we're on the same road. Yeah. We would agree to disagree. Let's move on and walk towards. There's no point in us fighting because we get distracted. And these are things that we need to learn about. And this is why it's so important to learn about world history, not just Black history, world history, because they've not just done it to us, they've done it to other groups and how they're able to survive and how they're able to maneuver and keep going. And we have to be learning from that all the time. That's why I always say to people, history is very important to learn because we have to learn what they've done in the past. Because some of these techniques that they've used in the past continue to this day. Yeah, it's just changed now. So it's not tapping phones, it's something else. Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you. And I was going to, and the same question to you, Darrel, what would you advise? Are you agreeing with what Charmaine said, or is there another way? Do you think we can have a Black leader in this day and age?
I'm in agreement, definitely, because we are all leaders in our own right and in our own way. Do you know what I mean? Like it's because the whole idea of a leader is been painted with this notion that there's someone at the front with a megaphone like, let's get out there and do something. And that's not essentially what a leader is. You know what I mean? That's someone who's a director. That's you know what I mean? But you lead your own life. You see what I'm saying? So what I say to young people that you don't have to, because like what I've come across, which is unfortunate with some young people in Key Stage 4 level, I say to them, you can be a leader in that front and you're a leader yourself. They're like, oh, I can't because I'm not smart enough. I don't know enough about Black history. I'm like, wow, this notion's been painted that you have to be an intellectual and you have to know about X, Y, Z for you to be a leader, which is not true. You know what I mean? Because you bring in the African-centered way of understanding and you form a Umoja circle, then no one leads in a group. You know, everybody's in the same line. It's just a curved line. So what I say to young people is that you can be a leader because you lead your own lives and you lead your own way. And you got people who are drivers, you got people who are passengers, but you're both getting the same weight. There's certain things that a passenger can see that a driver can't. So when there's blind spots in life, and there's blind spots in every organization, you need that person on the left or the person on the right or behind to be able to gauge and say, look, this is what's missing, this is what we need. And those are leaders. They are leaders of different things. That's all it is. And what I say to young people is that in life, all you need is what you got, literally. So if you want to join an organization but you don't think you're smart, but you're someone who can do textiles or materials, we're like, well, we need new uniforms. We don't want to wear Babylon's things. We want to form our own uniforms, wear our own garments, and you can sew and stitch like incredible. Like, can you make us? All right, cool. Is that all you got? That's all we need. So it's about applying your self skills, ideological skills of yourself, and bringing that to the forefront. And anybody can be a leader. Now, having one person to lead a whole movement is dangerous because they have a history of cutting off the head. So they did that with Nat Turner. They did that with Toussaint. They've done that multiple times with different leaders, and movements can crumble. So I'm for a leader because it's nice to have a leader, but I'm for a whole movement because old Bondi proverb is sticks in a bundle are hard to break. So if everybody moves at the same pace and recognizes, you know what, we are a team, then a job can get done because white supremacy doesn't have a leader. It's just it's an attitude. So can you imagine blackness being an attitude? No matter, you can go to the deep depths of Cambodia and you see a black person there and they have blackness about them where you can feel it, you can sense it because it's an attitude. If blackness can be a movement, no one owns it, but we all understand it. Okay, you're a Christian. Okay, cool. Okay, you're a Muslim. Okay, you're Nawapian. Okay, you're a Hebrew. Okay, you're an atheist. Okay, you're spiritual. Okay, whatever. But are we all same goal, everybody? Yeah, high fives all around. Cool. If blackness became that one goal, we don't need a leader. We just need one person to just say, this is our manifesto, and we put it around the globe. And as Charmaine was saying, world history is important. We should be able to go anywhere and have that same mentality. That's why we can be troubled in the United States because no one's going to step to the government. So if you kill, if the police treated a group of Chinese people like that, China's going to be on the phone to the United States saying, listen, that madness you just did, you better sort it out, and the police officer better go in jail. Otherwise, you know what time it is. So that's pulling resources, that's connections, everything's gone. So, and people are proud to be Chinese because of their culture, the history, and being a nation. So Garvey had this idea of creating a nation, but in a sort of different sense where it was like Africans for the Africans, home and abroad. And maybe that could be the blueprint. He wrote that in Message to the People, by having a blueprint and a focus point as African people around the globe, not just African Americans. We are African people. Once we establish that, then cool. And I guess giving us the red, black, and green flag was our movement. He was the leader behind that, but obviously they tried to discredit him. All the rest of it that happened to him, and so we've had it before. It's about developing it and creating a new version, a 21st century version of it.
And that's what you both touched as well on how they just used their tools to discredit the leaders by any way that they could. And I think social media now makes it harder. It's like it's a gift and a curse. You can get a message out and affect the masses, and you can immediately press send on whichever platform you're on and send a counter message. However, you then have the power to brainwash people with any type of ideology that becomes really dangerous. And like, this is what we've seen in recent times with Trump, and we're about to swear in a new president for America. And I say we because everything that happens in America, the UK is right behind. We're like, kissing cousins. We're just right behind them, everything that America does. But what are your thoughts on how better can we use the media to, and I say manipulate, but not in the negative sense of the word, but how can we use the media to kind of counter the negative narratives that are put out there about us? Because Black Lives Matter has suffered, our Black leaders have suffered, and even just a Black man being killed on screen by police can still have his reputation extremely damaged, where people no longer feel empathy for him and actually side with and say blue lives matter, all lives matter, when you've literally seen a man or a woman or somebody of color being killed on screen. How do you think we could better use their tools against them, I guess?
Sometimes we might not have to just focus on them, focus on us. Because sometimes we're a bit reactionary to them. sometimes we might need to refocus and look at what we want to do. So, and I've noticed that because even though I've been in this game for a while now, I've noticed the change, and I've seen the change for the good. Whereas before, like for example, when certain companies use blatant racism as a shock factor, and then everybody gets upset about, oh, and start talking about it and indirectly promoting that company, a lot of us are like, yeah, we see what you've done. We're not going to fall for that. We just focus on what we're going to do. We're not going to buy for your products no more. We wasn't even buying your products in the first place. All of a sudden now we just focus on what we need to do. So we can use our media and our social media and our media angles to celebrate ourselves unapologetically, celebrate our blackness, celebrate our stories, celebrate our greatness. What of our young people have been doing in the community? So we work with young people. So what are the things that our young people are doing? They're not, oh, they've got a 5 GCSEs or they've got a degree. What are they doing? They've achieved in their community. They set up community projects. They're working together in their community. Highlight those stories. Yeah, make those go viral. Sort of sharing, sending people sending me 700 times the one video of somebody being killed by the police. Send an image of, for example, like Coco magazine, the new magazine for young people. Make that go viral. Make a program that this couple has been married for 58 years. Make that go viral. Talk about our good stories, because we have so much brilliant stories in our community, and that's why I love being Black, and I love our people, and I love what we've done. Even though we should be celebrating all our goodness, we have some issues in our community. Yeah, we know everybody has their issues, but what about the amazing things that we've been doing? I celebrate our successes, because even though, going back to the film, even though J. Edgar Hoover tried to infiltrate and disrupt all these organizations and may have killed the leaders, but their ideas are still there. People still know Martin Luther King. People still know Malcolm X. People know Fred Hampton. People know of these people, may not know of them as their life story, but they recognize their faces. And they're still continuing and living in our hearts to this day.
Yeah.
For us, as educators and historians, to keep that memory alive and keep their stories alive. Yeah. And that is one of the things that we can do. Show that our history is not dead. Didn't die at the hands of the FBI. Is continuing to this day, and be still inspired by those amazing stories of these leaders. Because even every time I think about Fred Hampton, I'm like, wow, he was 22.
Exactly.
That was amazing work at that time. Martin Luther King was young as well. It was Malcolm X was like in his early 30s. All of these young people that were doing amazing. Black Panther parties were in university, young students doing some amazing things. The young people are doing amazing things. Why are we not celebrating these amazing people? And people always say, oh, they gave us Black History Month, and oh, we only should do it in a month. No, Black History Month came out of an idea. It was a week, went to a month. There's no reason why we can't be looking at Black history throughout the whole year. And that's what we do every day, 365 days of the year, 24 hours a day. We're highlighting and celebrating our history. There's no reason why we can't do that. And we don't have to wait for permission or funding or somebody to say you're allowed to do it at this time. We just have to keep doing it, and doing it in a way that we can, using the resources and working together with other people doing similar works, so that we can further that idea. And that's what I love social media. And I love the fact that we can reach out to people globally, all over the world, and find out what their stories. So whatever our brothers and sisters are experiencing in Australia, because I guarantee it's some of the same things that we're experiencing in England. And making links with those people as well. Marcus Garvey had to travel on ships now. We can reason with our brothers and sisters in Australia via the phone.
Yeah.
We have no excuse now for not coming together now, because technology has made it much easier for us. We just have to have the will and the willpower to do that. So if they kill one of our brothers and sisters in Australia, we should be able to reach out and support them. Yeah, we have to.
Because I want to give you a little bit of a remix question, Darrel, because time's slowly running out. Quickly running out, I should say. What Charmaine said about changing the narrative and not always focusing on the negative, in this documentary will reveal, and it does actually confirm, that Martin Luther King had affairs. And I mean, it's long been the rumor, and we've, so far, I don't think it's tarred his image. And if we compare it to how Trump, even with all the things said against him, he still appeals to some people. It's just amazing how the right-wing people have definitely done very well on how to spin a horrible character. So we essentially should it shouldn't, because they're saying in 2027, my bad, 2027, that those tapes on Malcolm X will be released. They're going to be unlocked, and because they're sealed now, but they're eligible to be released in 2027. Whether or not that will happen, maybe something might be passed for that not to happen. But we've discussed the fact that we don't need leaders, a solo leader. We need to be leaders as a community. However, we're not perfect people. So how do you reconcile the amount of expectation we put on the people who, because no matter what, there are always people that we kind of gravitate towards, and the ones that do have a platform, you know, like Stormzy's a young, he's my son, literally, he's young enough to be my son, but yet he's a leader no matter what for some group of young people who aspire to him. So when we got people like that, but any kind of misstep, then we tear them back down. So how do we, I guess, how do you reconcile that expectation and pressure we put on people who we're excited and hopeful that they're the ones that, you know, Obama suffered that, you know, we had so much expectations of him. And though maybe his marital life is stable and idyllic, some of his law, some of the things he passed or didn't pass aren't so revered in his post legacy. So I'm just wondering how we do that to manage our expectations for people that we do feel excited about. Darrel.
Okay. So going back to what I was saying in the beginning, about you know, people being ordinary people. Before we get into the level expectations, we have to understand that these people that we want to elevate, that we want to big up, we want to promote, these are people who we all damaged. As long as you're in the UK, you're going to be damaged, right? At some point, right? Whether it's epigenetic trauma or whether it's just societal issues and societal violence, whether it's a spiritual violence or emotional violence. And no one's going to be perfect to your degree. People are going to make mistakes. However, we have to allow room for growth. For example, if Malcolm X and Martin Luther King were around today, they would have been cancelled a long time ago. Think about it. Malcolm X being someone who was labeled as a pimp. You know, he used to work with gangsters and, you know, get women to lure men out of bars and, you know, go back to the hotel, then stick them up and rob them and whatnot until, you know, he eventually got arrested, sent to prison, and his life changed around. But if we met Malcolm when he was Malcolm Little, he would have been cancelled, right? So it's about at what level, at what, I mean, there's some things that in certain areas can't be forgiven. You know, I would expect a mother who, you know, who working hard to support her family, you know, her children, does an incredible job to forgive a man who's, you know what I mean, abused or molested children, because it's like, I've got children of my own. Imagine if that connection, I can understand, you know, but it's dangerous to put certain people on a pedestal and lift them up and say, you know what, this is our ideal leader. This is who we want to, these are our goals. You know, sometimes we have like relationship goals, and it's like, be careful with the relationship goals of some of these famous people, because behind closed doors and whatnot. Now, the reason why I say you've got to be dangerous, because as much as energy you put into lifting someone up, you can also be disappointed and let down. So it's about, be wary that mistakes can happen, but it's about how do you resolve that? How do you bounce back from that? How do you help? You know, people say the same thing about Diane Abbott. You know, we love her, great, but she says some things that are a bit, but we shouldn't take to the media and discredit her or disrespect her. We should say, Diane, the meeting, North London, East London, West London, South London, boom, this is where we're going to be at. And then we sit down with her and reason with her as a community. So we can have a community person who is a therapist or someone who works with different areas. They will come in and say, look, we understand you're going through this. This is a choice you made. However, it wasn't the best conducive choice for the organization, for the community, for our race. This is what we think you should do. These are other options. And we work with these people continuously. And we should work with them before they get to being big. Because if we let them be big and let them do their own thing, and then they make a mistake, we're like, oh my gosh, how can we do that? Blah, 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 blah. And we tear them down. As soon as we can feel, you know, that someone's got potential, that's when we should work on it. So tie that to what Charmaine was saying, it's like, what skills do you have? Okay, well, you got that skill. Let's get behind them. Let's uplift them. We don't need to build another pyramid. We've got one. We've got the pyramid of Giza, as well as many in Sudan and so on and so forth. But we've got that. Let's elevate that, let's build that. We don't need to create one in Europe. Let's just keep that one as precious and work with it, and keep it in its level and its greatness. Same with our people. We should work with people as well as, because as soon as they step into that wider lens, as soon as they step into that world of, let's say world of whiteness, that's where the challenges come in place. And we're in a society and in a world, unfortunately, where it's one in, one out. So there's one Stormzy. So they're waiting for him to mess up so they can tear him down, and then they'll be like, okay, cool. Well, we've had Stormzy. What's next? So this is why it's bad to have a leader, because at that sense, it's like, if we try to use Stormzy as an example when we're discussing Black empowerment in white spaces, they're going to be like, well, didn't he? Well, isn't he a part of? Well, isn't he connected to? Well, so it's dangerous. So with media platforms now, tying it to that part of the question, we also have to have our own media platforms. Too many times we, as academics, we want to run away to the Telegraph or the Guardian, and here's my piece on, racial institutions. And like, how are you going to write a piece about disadvantages within the workforce or within schools, right? Which we've been doing for time. We already know the stats, right? Yeah. And then the following week, another journalist is going to write something racist. It's like, bruh, like, you're on the same platform, and then you're gonna have to challenge that with your opinion with the Telegraph. It's not even a real section, it's just an orange section. And then it's like, but you're using their platforms. It was based on that. In the documentary, you see a clipping where they have this Black man as a beast, and he's holding a white woman, and then there's a child, and like, the media platforms against Blackness is being created upon racial biases, right? Yeah. And this ideology of bestiality, overly sexualized, being, deaf, dumb, and blind. Like, these are the things that push this narrative behind media platforms against Blackness. So we've got to let's stop being licky and being up these people's behind. Let's step back, right? And create our own. Like, some of our most intelligent minds should be running to The Voice, should be running to Jamaica Gleaner. We should be creating our own. We should be saying, you know what? Some of our elders that used to do it in the 50s and 60s, 70s, they should give us the blueprint and say, what? This is what you should do. This is how you birth your old publishing company. There should be many New Beacons bookstores. They should be 10 of them everywhere. Like, there should be loads up and down the country. But Blackness becomes a fear, because we're in white spaces. Because of Stockholm Syndrome, we've been on the soil for too long, where we have now taken on our oppressors' mentality. So we solve our problems with a European mindset, not with an African mindset. So we feel like we can't do something because Europeans can't do it. So we're like, oh, I don't want to create my own school because, like, what if? And then as a nation, as a community, we're like, well, if our child goes to your school, what qualification are they going to get? What can they do with a certificate? So we question and doubt our own selves, and that's why things crumble. So with our own platforms, we've got to be able to celebrate ourselves and have the positive mediums in there where we celebrate the local person. Queen of the week is, I don't know, a woman who, she, for years upon years, she's always inviting people around for Christmas, saying, you know what, come get a little food. Yeah, right? You know what, come over for Christmas. She's always got family members over or people in the community that can just come in and make sure she's incredible. She's Queen of the Week, or King of the Week is the man who's
community awards. Right.
You see what I'm saying?
And
those sort of things can help bring around greatness. And then when we have that as a nation, then we realize every single one of us is incredible. We're all dope.
But we are, though. We just don't realize that we are. We are amazing. I say to people all the time, we don't even realize how amazing we are. Because like Sister Fuwa, she got their head wrap. So I'm like, oh my God, you're like, oh, she's meant to put a little head wrap, look at something. But that's arts. Celebrate that. We are amazing. It's like we create music. Even the way we talk, the style of wear, the way we cook our food, all of that is amazing. Why are we not celebrating that? And I laughed when you were talking about looking at things through a European lens. When we do our courses, people are, what is the qualification? Oh, what certificate will I get? And I'm like, we're not doing it for no qualification. And unless there's an African-centered Black awarding body, I don't need to go to EdXL or those people to get them to say, oh, no, no, don't do this. No, don't talk about that. No, I don't want you to censor what we're doing. We are doing it. We never asked you for your permission in the first place to set it up. We set it up. And that's why we just have to have that bravado and that motivation just to do it. Unapologetic. Don't business. No one is harmed by the fact that we're teaching history. Just do it. Don't wait for no one to ask permission. You don't need to wait for funding to drop your way. Sometimes you just have to start very small and it builds up. Yeah. This is what we got to do. We just have to start doing it and start watching them and watch out what we need to do. Because sometimes we get distracted by all what's going on in the media. What do we need to do? And just focus on that. Because I say to people all the time, we have enough people in our community to take over the world if we want to, and create our own industries, our mediums. Everybody, even if we said here, who knows somebody that can sew, can cook, that can do websites, that can write. There's so much people in our community that can do it, right? Do films. We just have to come together as a collective and just do it. And that's what we just have to do. Just do it and do it unapologetically and do it with love. That's what we have to do.
Exactly. And then I think we've got to wrap up. So my final question for you both is, what is your biggest in telling somebody to go and watch this documentary, what would be your selling point for why is this documentary so important to watch, in your opinion? I'll start with Charmaine.
This documentary is very important because you're getting to see what a leader or a person who has decided that their life purpose is to create change in the community, what they have had to deal with at that time in order to get change. So oftentimes people see the finished article, the shiny person, but they don't see all the things that happen behind the scenes that gets them to where they're at now. People need to watch this film. They need to watch it in the lens of the fact that this is not just history. This is happening as we speak, but in different ways, and to be aware of that. And we need to keep his memory alive and keep that dream alive. And that what Martin Luther King was trying to do is still work in progress. There's still work to be done. And anybody who's been inspired by that, by this documentary, can pick up that mantle and also continue that change in their communities. And don't be ruled by fear. Yeah, just keep doing what you're doing and watch the film and have a discussion and encourage your friends and family to watch the film as well.
Thank you. And Darrel?
I would encourage people to watch this film to get an insight into how a person of the people who was just an average person who had enough faith within him and belief within him. I mean, this is a man from, getting degrees at Morehouse College, from Crozer Theological Seminary. This man got a C in public speaking. Let's just focus on that for like 2 seconds. He got a C in public speaking. In term 1, he got a C+. In term 2, he got a C-. Right? So this is a man who graduated with A's and B's, but in public speaking, he got a C. And this is a man who went against the grain and spoke out numerous times and had no fear. And this is an example, many other examples, that for you to bring about change, you may have to break the law. You may have to get arrested, as you saw. And he was arrested with women, with men, and, there was no hierarchy. He was with the people. And what I would take from the film documentary is a piece that he said, which I really enjoyed. There's a quote from him. He said, "You can't ride a man's back unless it's bent." I was like, so I would take that forward and say, so if you don't want the system, the oppressors, to ride you out until you can't sleep, until you're stressed, you're becks every day, stand up straight, be proud, have honor. You understand?
On that wonderful, wonderful note from both of you, I mean, this could be like a 4-hour conversation because you learn so much, you hear so much, and it is that you both kind of expressed talking and communicating and sharing knowledge amongst us. We don't need to be out there on the pulpit. It's all right if you want to be, but have the smarts to come back to the community and embed yourself in your people then, because that's where we're strongest with one another. Darrel and Charmaine, please, can you just quickly say where people can find you, support you, and follow you, and actually get taught by you, more importantly. Charmaine.
So if you want to follow the work of Black History Studies, go to our website, www.blackhistorystudies.com. We're on the social medias, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Our contact numbers in there. We're very personal people. Just pick up the phone and give us a call. We love talking to people. Yeah, just follow us on the social medias, follow us, go onto our website, check out what we're doing, and yeah, just pick up the phone and talk, because sometimes, you know, everything's always online and in digital and internet now. We like to start talking to people, so pick up the phone, just come have a conversation, yeah, and just check us out basically, and that's what we ask you to do as well.
Thank you. And Darrel.
Yeah, so social media, organization Black Rooted. If you type that into Facebook or into Instagram, you will see, or Black Rooted Academy will be there. And as for myself, Darrel Blake, Darrel, and then Blake. Put that into social media, I will come up, everything that I'm doing, whether it's Google or Facebook or YouTube or whatever, you'll see something. So Darrel Blake and Black Rooted, check me out.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And this has been me, Akua Gyamfi, hosting for We Are Parable. And please do follow, support, and like and subscribe to We Are Parable. What they're doing is huge. It's just We Are Parable on all the platforms. And I run a platform called the British Blacklist, and I am a Black-owned media outlet. So,
yes,
you know,
hail you up as well, sis. You're on the battlefield from long time, so we have to hail you up as well, looking gorgeous as ever.
Yeah, no, beautiful, beautiful people. So thank you so much,
yes.
guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back again one day soon. Take care.
Yeah.